Welcome back to the Red Dice Diaries. I'm John and this is Hannah.
Hi.
And all this month we're going to be looking at the various prompts for RPGaDay 2025. So let's get into it.
Day 3, and the prompt is Tavern. What do you reckon, John?
Well, obviously the Tavern is a sort of ubiquitous location for RPG, specifically of the fantasy variety. I mean, there's the old sort of staple of all the NPCs meet up in a tavern. They get given a job by a mysterious stranger, which, you've got that famous scene in Lord of the Rings where they go into the tavern in Bree, I think it is, and Strider's sat over in the corner. He takes his one puff off his pipe and then puts it down and never smokes it again. It's really a sort of well-worn stereotype in a D&D game, most fantasy games, and I think it's sort of fallen maybe a little bit out of favour because it's become so much of a stereotype, so much of a meme, as the kids might say nowadays. But I think it's a bit of a shame that it has sort of fallen out of favour a bit, because I think there's a lot of sort of interesting game mileage you can get out of a tavern. So it can serve as a base of operations for the players. Maybe they book a room at a tavern, and certainly for at least a big chunk of my Enemy Within campaign, the player characters were staying at a tavern in Middenheim. So whenever they needed to regroup, they went back to that tavern, and that gave me a great opportunity to introduce some regular NPCs. So they got to know the halfling cook who liked cooking weird and creative desserts from around the old world. They got to know the sister of one of the sort of wizards in the city, who was staying at a room there, and she sort of she was trying to keep it a bit down low, because she was like, I don't really like to be constantly having people reminding me that my sister's a famous wizard. And they sort of got to know these characters a little bit. So each time they went back there, I could just drip feed them a little bit more about, oh, you bump into so-and-so who's staying in the room next to yours. They have a bit of interaction, and it just helps the world feel like a more sort of three-dimensional place, really, sort of more well-rounded. So I think that's one of the benefits you can get from a tavern. The idea of a sort of a safe place, and this is up to modern D&D, if you're out exploring dungeons, you're fighting monsters, you're stopping evil cults and whatever, you tend to want to have a sort of safe place you can retire to at the end of the day. You can rest, you can get your hit points back, you can maybe go and do a bit of shopping in the town around it, buy some new equipment. Some systems you have to have a bit of downtime before you can level up or advance or whatever. And I think the tavern, certainly in a fantasy RPG, or the pub or whatever in a more modern setting, is a great sort of safe space to be able to do that and to serve as a home base in a game. And as I say, you can also populate it with all manner of NPCs. You can have events going on there, and with most sort of safe places, the player characters come to sort of, they have a bit of a sense of ownership about it, so you can then sort of threaten that.
So that was what I was wondering about, why you keep saying safe place for you. Because to me, a tavern isn't so much a safe place as a place to go get quests or find information.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas a safe place would be like your own castle if you're that rich, or maybe your spaceship or whatever. The tavern is the place where you can go and find other NPCs, go and hear rumours, but also the bad guys can go drinking too. And if they've seen you're out drinking, they might follow you home.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose for me, part of my idea sort of comes from those sort of open world / sort of hex crawl, mega dungeon style games, where the whole sort of premise of those style games is configured around the idea that your quests are you venturing out from the town to go and explore these ruins, go and delve into this mega dungeon, go and have a look at what's going on in the wilderness. And you don't really tend to adventure as much in sort of civilization, but you return to the village, whatever, at the end of the adventure. And that's where you do your carousing, that's where you buy your equipment, that's where you level up, maybe you roll on your rumour table. But the tavern is a nice sort of, I suppose, sort of shortcut or sort of way of representing that.
So the last game I did,
Yeah.
we started in a tavern.
Oh, nice.
We weren't meeting up in the tavern. We started the story as a group who had just been on a failed adventure.
Oh, okay.
And one of the other adventure group, so the people who'd got ahead of us and already got the magic MacGuffin,
Yeah.
was also in the pub drinking. which meant that we were able to get quite a bit of information out of him, and then play a rather nasty trick on him where one of us mentioned that the place they were going to had quite a lot of snakes, and then the druid followed him into the bathroom and made sure he saw some snakes in there.
Oh.
But that led on to, so daft bit of drunken debauchery led on to a scene in the next session where we were in the jungles again competing with this other group, and the guy comes across snakes and he's now terrified of snakes because of the toilet snake that came after him.
I see.
There's a lot you can do in taverns and have fun with it, but also you can use it to feed onto other parts of the session. It's not just like a save point, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose what sort of cemented my ideas of a tavern when it comes to RPGs was the original sort of West Marches style of game. And for anyone who doesn't know, the idea of a West Marches game is you have like a revolving group of players who get together, they put a team together, they then go to the GM and say like, all right, we've got 4 people, are you free on such and such a night? And they run an adventure. And in the original West Marches sort of campaign, and I'll put a link to all of this in the description of this episode.
You remember?
Yeah, if I remember, yeah. And they, in the original one, they built up a sort of map. So as different parties were exploring, the map got built up that they could all see. And the in-character rationale for that was that each adventuring party who went out, they had on a big table in a tavern, they had like a map that had been carved in, and each group that came back was like carving more into this table to like expand this map. And that sort of served as like the common frame of reference for all of the different adventuring parties. And I thought that was such a cool idea that it sort of forever cemented taverns as like a sort of a common place of reference, because we all vaguely know what a sort of fantasy pseudo-medieval tavern looks like. So it's a very familiar space. As a GM, it's very easy to describe that, but it's also easy to sort of embellish it a little as well, because even if you just sort of say, oh, it's a tavern, you go in, there's an innkeeper, he serves drinks, there's some rooms upstairs, it can be a bit bland, it can be a bit boring. But if you throw a few random things in, like I say, like in the Wolfrup campaign I'm doing, they've got a halfling cook who works in the kitchen who likes trying mad different desserts. Those sort of little like flecks of flavour stick out in the players' minds.
And another thing that I've noticed that both of us do occasionally with taverns is we'll base it on a tavern that we've been to.
Yeah.
And it gives you an awful lot of shorthand to be able to say, oh, you walk into this pub and it's like the Slaughtered Lamb.
Yeah.
You walk into this pub and it's like, what's that one in Dusk Till Dawn? It's like the Titty Twister.
Yeah.
You've got an awful lot of shorthand from just being able to say, it's a bit like this pub that you've seen to your players. You walk into this pub and it's like the Abbey.
Yeah.
It's really old, it's kind of dirty, but nobody's got any problems.
Yeah, and like I said, I think it can be useful for that shorthand, that common frame of reference. And like I say, for me, although obviously you can have adventures in a tavern, in the game sort of I've played and I've run, the tavern tends to serve as either the starting or the end point of the adventure, or perhaps both. It's the place you go to where you get the quest and you go out and do it, and it's the place you sort of return to at the end to like rest and recuperate and celebrate or commiserate with your friends.
Mm-hmm. It's also a good place for like character interactions.
Oh yeah, very much so.
And I'm particularly thinking of like how 10 Forward gets used in Star Trek for that. Of like characters in their off time get to have a little chat or talk to each other, and Campfire is another place where that happens a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's a really good time to be able to just sit and let your players talk to each other in character for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I mean, this is something I'll often do in games that I'm running, where, like, if we, like, say, the Wolfrup game I was talking about, where they had regular lodgings at a tavern, quite often at the start of the game, I'd say, right, here's a quick rundown of what we did last session. You're all back at the tavern, you're all in your room there, you're all having a discussion about what you want to do next. What's the plan, guys? And then they can have that icy discussion, knowing that they're in a reasonably sort of safe environment. They can have that discussion, however long that takes, and then you're like, okay, so what's the plan, guys? And then they go, right, so we're venturing out of the tavern and we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And again, it becomes the jumping off point for the rest of the adventure.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it from me and Hannah for this RPGaDay 2025 episode.
Bye.
Hopefully you'll join us in the next one. Until we see you again, take care, stay safe, and whenever you're playing, have fun.